Morning. This is eNCA at 10. I'm Dan Moyane. Now, in this hour, we will focus on the painful and visible epidemic that's afflicting our country. Gender-based violence is festering and sweeping across the land. That's despite President Cyril Ramaphosa declaring femicide a national crisis in September 2019. What happened to those GBV emergency plans? Is the criminal justice system failing our girls, sisters, aunts, mothers and grandmothers? What are the societal and relational issues that lie behind the senseless and wanton killing? Can South Africa cure itself from GBV? While I don't have any evidence or statistics to back my view, I can't help but observe that since the sale of alcohol was allowed under level 3 lockdown, there has been a noticeable surge in GBV cases. In this hour, we'll focus on this epidemic that has seemingly worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our discussion will include the Police Minister, Bheki Cele, and we also have Ella Mangisa, who is from Ilitha Labantu, an NGO that's based in Cape Town. And we'll also be joined from Sonke Gender Justice by Bafana Khumalo. Now, earlier this week here on eNCA, the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, that's Bheki Cele, told eNCA that GBV is a complex issue, and she said that there has been some progress in the fight against the epidemic, but the Deputy Minister acknowledged that the war against GBV is far from over.
The police stations that we visit, sometimes unannounced, you find a better response than where we were yesterday, because the police will immediately pay attention, account, explain to you what they've done, the challenges they have, if any. Jane, we need time to talk about gender-based violence. It's complex, it's infused with cultural thinking and patterns and behaviors, and sometimes some of the incidences that occur, the police are too far, too much away from the scene. You find families stepping in, assuring the people who are fighting, the couple, whether staying together or married, no, you must make this thing work. Sometimes we've just taken the lobola and so on, and then they are surprised when at the end somebody has lost their life.
The Deputy Minister, Bheki Cele, explaining what she believes is a very complex issue, that's GBV. Well, joining me now at this moment to discuss the scourge of gender-based violence is Ella Mangisa from Ilitha Labantu, the Cape Town-based NGO that's been around since the 80s, helping women who are victims of violence in their homes, and also the Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. Can I start with you, Ms. Mangisa? Good morning, and thank you very much for your time. Listening to what the Deputy Minister, Bheki Cele, was saying there, that this is a complex issue, we need more time, and it goes beyond just relational issues. What is your view?
Very much, Dan, for allowing me and giving me this opportunity. Firstly, I will agree with her in terms of the complexity of issues of violence against women and children. But at the same breath, I would like to say that we are also tired of hearing the very same rhetoric, because within the minister's statement, she mentioned that there were several police stations that were visited and they didn't necessarily have the necessary stats at hand. And there were various excuses being given by police to the minister in terms of how cases of domestic violence have been handled at the police station. Now, we've had too many opportunities presenting themselves, whereas I'm glad that the Minister of Police is also present in this conversation, whereas we could pick up the gaps and see what needs to be done in order to capacitate those police stations that are there to assist our communities in the scourge of this violence perpetrated against women and children.
Now, Minister, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. I mean, last year in September, you told the nation that plans were underway to increase, for example, the number of family violence, child protection and sexual offences units in the country, and to bolster the number of officers, especially women detectives, to work with the units in dealing with GBV. Now, listening to what Ella is saying, there seems to be more talk than action. Can you update our viewers on what progress is being made?
Yes, good morning, Dan. Good morning to other participants, Mangisa and Bafana. It's true that the commitment and trying to implement it is there. The specialized units, FCS, we have increased them. There are 185 in the country, then based on our clusters, and then we have 10 more that are versatile, that are dealing with the more complex, like the serial rapist and all that kind of thing. We have trained more of the members there, but we also try to retrain the members that are members of this unit. One thing that we have corrected is availability of the working tools like your raid kits. I'm glad to say we don't see any shortage again. We have enough in the warehouses that we don't experience what we had last time when there was shortage. We have tried to put more equipment like the cars and any other thing. Yes, we are not there yet then, but we have tried to cover the ground going forward. If you look at the things that the team is doing, with all complexities, with all problems, I think having more than 4,728 people that are doing life sentence coming out of this team, that tells you that there is an effort that is putting there. Long walk again, but some ground has been covered.
So there's a ground that's been covered, Minister. I want to bring in Bafana Khumalo. Hopefully he can hear me. He's from Sonke Gender Justice, just to get a sense from him as we're starting this discussion. Bafana Khumalo, Deputy Minister Bheki Cele telling eNCA it's a complex issue, and the police are saying they're trying to do their best. The minister saying they've got more units, about 185, that specifically deal with gender-based violence. But some commentators are saying it begins in their home, and we are the men who kill our loved ones. From Sonke Justice's perspective, what is the role of men in the fight against GBV?
Good morning, Braden, and good morning, Minister Mangisa. I agree with the sentiment expressed that this is a complex matter. I think we are doing certain things right in terms of the criminal justice system, and we need to perhaps improve where there are still gaps in that respect. But the major focus for me, Braden, is that we have just developed a national strategic plan, which is a coherent plan for the country to give a comprehensive response to GBV. Key in that plan is the second pillar, which speaks about prevention. I don't think we will walk ourselves out of the massive GBV challenge we are facing simply by arresting and giving people long-term jails. I don't think that is the final solution. The major challenge that faces us as a society is how do we begin to confront what it means to be a man in South Africa and how men relate, particularly to women, in the context of social behavior. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. I've often challenged men to say we need to do a lot of self-reflection. Why is it that men find it easy to treat women as commodities, to simply think we can use unending power to control women and control women's bodies? That is at the core of the problem that we are facing here. And until we get to a point where we have programs that speak to our young people in schools, to men who are working in industries where men are dominant, where men think it's okay to touch a woman's bum, to flirt, to do all sorts of things which undermine women's dignity. we are not going to deal with the scourge of gender-based violence. And so I would impress that we need a lot of programming that is going to be focusing on changing the narrative of what it means to be a man.
What does it mean to be a man? Minister, I know your department is a law enforcement department. You have oversight over that. You deal with the numbers. You deal with mechanisms and action that are put in place to protect women. But when you hear Bafana Khumalo say what he's just said, as a man, how do you respond?
No, that's true. Again, I agree with Bafana with the national strategy that has been, and the second pillar that he talks about, the pillar of prevention. Because up to this point, we are reacting to this. Indeed, as you are reading your news, that boy is arrested, but where is Sholo? Is gone. With a long list of arrests then, but all those women are gone. So we need to boost this pillar of prevention. That pillar is more of the society, is more of the law enforcement working together with the society. One major area in the society is the family. I listened to the brother of Nelsie Wemfaba that was picked up dead in Dobsonville then, saying that it looks like he's been with the boyfriend for 6 years. And that boyfriend has tried 3 or 4 times to murder her before that. Now, the family knows that, everybody knows that. What are we doing about that? Clearly, if you try for the first time and the second time, that guy will only stop when she's dead, and indeed, she's dead. So families, friends, communities, we just need this new repositioning of ourselves to say, this is not just a crime. By the time it becomes a crime, it has been building up towards the murder, towards the harassment of that woman. So those are the steps that we need to start. All of us as a society. Indeed, the central figure here is the man. That the men, they need to put in one pot and say to you, you own nobody here. These are human beings on an equal footing.
We'll try and find out what's happening on the community when we continue shortly. I'm going to ask Ella Mangisa from Ilitha Labantu. I mean, they are an NGO, Cape Town based. They've been around since 1989. What are the men in communities where they've been working really? How are they responding to this? What are they doing? Are they doing anything? And the families in those communities. We'll continue shortly. We've got Ella Mangisa from Ilitha Labantu, with the Police Minister, Bheki Cele, as well as Bafana Khumalo from Sonke Gender Justice. Stay with us.